Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Miro, Save Joe to and Love. Here with your AEW All Out review for September 5th, 2021. What a night. What a night. A night of history. We had not one, not two, not three, but four big surprises last night. We had Minoru Suzuki come out to confront Jon Moxley. Ruby Soho was the Joker in the women's casino battle royal. Adam Cole, baby, is all elite. It's official. He is all elite. After talks, after is he gonna stay with WWE? Is he gonna leave for AEW? That question has been answered. And also, Bryan Danielson, aka Daniel Bryan, is now all elite as well. They both came out after the main event. I mean, when I saw it at first, I wanted to cry. I legit wanted to cry because I know I've been a fan for over 20 some odd years of being a pro wrestling fan, and seeing what happened last night was just heartwarming, to say the least. Four big, now not to discount the Butcher, who I'm happy to see back, who returned on a buy-in, but as far as the big, huge surprises, Ruby Soho, Minoru Suzuki, Daniel Bryan Danielson. We're so used calling him Daniel Bryan in WWE, but Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole. Oh man, oh man. But I'll touch up more on those in a bit. But thank you for joining me. If you're new to the podcast, if you want to see more of these videos after this one, be sure to click that subscribe. As well as if you like this video, click that like button as well. We talked about the debuts a little bit, but I'll touch up on more. Now let's get into the review. I'll try my best because that was just it was just a great night. So, but nonetheless, the show started off with Kingston versus Miro for the TNT Championship. Solid match. I mean, this feud has been kind of thrown together for a couple weeks. Miro, he called out Eddie Kingston. Kingston was not having it, and then this feud boiled over. But the match was good nonetheless, although the ending was so. But so Eddie Kingston hit an exploder, as he said. He was going after Miro's neck. So that sent Miro to the outside. They were fighting on the outside. Miro caught Kingston and slammed him on the ground outside rule spot. But Eventually, they got back into the ring after a beatdown on Kingston. Kingston followed up with an enziguri, rocked Miro, and they hit a Saito suplex. Again, hint another one, the moves he was talking about, going after Miro's neck. Then eventually hit another Saito for a near fall. Kingston then hit a Fisherman suplex for a near fall. Miro then got the advantage back, locked on game over, but Kingston got to the ropes. And Kingston, he hit his signature spinning back fist for a close near fall. The crowd was on hinges to start. They wanted Kingston to win, but the finish was odd. As in, so Miro backed up the referee in the corner, and so Kingston was trying to follow up, but Miro, obscure to the referee, hit a low blow on Kingston, then hit a kick to the back of the head, which rocked or staggered Kingston, and then followed up with a big Machka kick, or super kick, whichever you want to call it, for the win. Miro retains, the Redeemer retains. I mean, I get it because it wasn't clean. Miro used a low blow, but still. Now, I'm hoping because we got the Arthur Ashe show in a couple weeks, and I've mentioned it before. With this screwy like finish, could we get a rematch in a couple weeks at Arthur Ashe and Kingston, a New Yorker, potentially wins the TNT Championship? I don't know, but Miro has been solid as TNT Champion for the last few months, and he has just looked on a tear. Next, we got Jon Moxley for Satoshi Kojima. Now, I have looked back at, because part of the Forbidden Door, I would say Kojima has done some work for Impact the last couple for a little bit. And yes, we were disappointed because we were expecting someone of higher importance to be Moxley's opponent for this pay-per-view, but was a good match. As you expect, it was a physical and just kick-ass environment for a match. They beat the hell out of each other. Um, so it was a suicide about Moxley, Kojima after some exchange of strikes. Also of note, Miro's chest looked really dark, looked really swollen, close to the chops by Eddie Kingston in the previous match. So now getting back to this Moxley Kojima match. So Kojima hit a superplex, then a DT on the apron by Kojima, and then a big lariat by Kojima, but Mox countered with a lariat of his own for near fall. Then eventually Moxley hit two paradigm shifts, for the win, lays the victory over Kojima. And then afterwards, Minoru Suzuki, one of the best in New Japan, who has been centered for New Japan Strong for a bit. He came out to a nice reception and stood in the ring with Jon Moxley. They exchanged some strikes. And then Suzuki dropped Moxley with a Gotch style pile driver. So, and we're getting a treat on Wednesday for Dynamite for Jon Moxley's homecoming in Cincinnati. Moxley versus Suzuki on Wednesday. Should be fun. Should be really fun. But I mean, yes, we were disappointed, like I said, with the selection of opponent for Moxley, but this match delivered. So, despite the disappointment for some. So, next we had Britt Baker versus Kris Statlander for the AEW Women's Championship. Very good match. These two women brought it. Now again, the story leading into this was suspect, but still this match delivered very much so. So Baker, she had a flatliner to Statlander on the second turnbuckle, staggered her. Statlander hit a superplex off the top rope. Then she hit a super scissors kick for a near fall. Then they were fighting on the outside. Britt hit a curb stomp to Statlander on the outside. She was getting counted out, and then Orange Cassidy, just a bulk of encouragement, as fired up as you'd see Orange Cassidy. He encouraged and willed Britt, or Statlander, excuse me, back in the ring before the 10 count. Britt, she hit a kudos, and you were thinking after she hit it, is he coming? Or is he making his appearance? Britt hit a Panama Sunrise. Beautiful Panama Sunrise to Statlander for a near fall. She then hit a curb stomp for a near fall. The crowd was eating it up. Statlander willed her so. But then Britt locked on the lockjaw and Statlander gave up. And Britt Baker, she retains. Now, I was a little disappointed at how this match went on before the Battle Royal, but then once I saw Ruby Soho and the Joker for the Battle Royal, I can understand why this match went on before. But very good women's match out of the two. And yes, it's Statlander's first loss this year in AEW, but could have come to a better opponent. in a better stage. Then my favorite match of the night. This was just kick ass. The way this match was. Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers. Steel cage match for the tag team championships. Oh man, this was crazy. First off, hell of an entrance for the Lucha Brothers. So those who sung their music, I'm not sure. They came out wearing headdresses and so on. There was some guy rapping them to the ring and Spanish. It was just glorious entrance. Now, usually when in WWE someone gets a big entrance, it usually means their downfall and they lose. That was not the case here. So all four started the ring. The Lucha Brothers hit stereo super kicks on the Young Bucks and a beautiful spot. So where Phoenix goes for that arm drag off the top rope, that beautiful arm drag off the top rope. He leaped up to the top rope and he did a hurricanrana to Nick Jackson off the top rope. So then super kicks by Phoenix or by the Young Bucks. Then they made super kick followed up by a made in Japan by Penta for near fall. The Young Bucks hit an assisted 450 on Penta. Then the Young Bucks eventually hit an Indie Taker for near fall. Then they hit stereo low blows on both the Lucha Brothers. Then a more bang for your buck off the cage for near fall. Kingston was thrown into the cage. And then this is when it started to get up a notch and crazy. So Brandon Cutler, who was at ringside outside the cage, he threw in a bag for the Young Bucks. And there were shoes that were spiked with thumbtacks at the bottom. So they used these to their advantage. They grinded them in the face of both Phoenix and Penta. Penta was really busted open. Uh, they were digging at the mass of the Lucha Brothers. Phoenix then got a second win. Fought off the Young Bucks, hit a spinning muscle buster for their fall. Then Crazy Pentagon hit a destroyer off the top rope, laid out all four men. Was a great scene. All four guys laid out in the middle of the ring. The Young Bucks then hit a fear factor for near fall. Then Phoenix, like Crazy Phoenix can do, he scaled up to the top of the cage. Then Nick Jackson, he was going up after him. Phoenix hit a tightrope kick, punt kick to Nick Jackson on the top of the cage. Phoenix, he just doesn't care. He just doesn't care. And then, beautiful spot, he landed a crossbody off the top of the cage onto everyone else. Then the Lucha Brothers hit a assisted spike pile driver to Nick Jackson. Penta was cornering Matt Jackson. 1, 2, 3. The crowd erupted as the Lucha Brothers are the new AEW World Tag Team Champions. Hell of a match. I mean, was bloody, it was brutal, it was crazy. I still don't know why Phoenix did what he did, but because there's no room for error, no room. Uh, but they pulled it off. Great moment for the Lucha Brothers. Afterwards, you saw Penta. He hugged, I assume, his daughter and his wife afterwards in a great moment as the Lucha Brothers are unseated the Young Bucks. Now, the Young Bucks were champions for 10 months. 10 months. So you thought, okay, whoever dethrones them will be the new kings of the tag team division for a bit. And I thought it was going to be Santana Ortiz, but I think the Cash Wheeler arm injury, it threw him off. Now, we just saw on Wednesday Santana Ortiz, they beat FTR. And we know the history between Santana Ortiz and the Lucha Brothers. And could this be the match that ultimately gets Santana Ortiz over the hump and finally for the tag team titles? We'll see. But great match. Happy for the Lucha Brothers. Not much to say. Just lost for words. So then we got the Casino Battle Royal for the women. So try to go over all the women that were involved and go over the eliminations. So in the first suit, we had Hikaru Shida, Sky Blue, who might be my new favorite in AEW. I don't know, Kris Statlander, she's still up there, but she apparently something happened to Julia Hart, and they announced that Sky Blue would be taking her place. I mean, I've seen her on a couple of shows, NWA, etc. She has a good look, but she's still kind of green in the ring, so hopefully she evolves. We got Emi Sakura, she was back, and Abaddon, she was back as well. Also, the Bunny, she was there. So they all started. Sky Blue, unfortunately, she was the first eliminated by Abaddon, who was then eliminated by the Bunny. Then we had Anna Jay, the returning Anna Jay. she was out with also Kylan King, Kiera Hogan, Diamante, and Nyla Rose. And I kept seeing why people may envy Jungle Boy for Anna Jay, and I see why. So Sheeta, she was eliminated. Then Thunder Rosa, who I thought was gonna win this Riho, she's back after that bad reaction to the vaccine. Big Swole, Jamie Hayter. So Diamante, she was eliminated. Then Ty Conti, Red Velvet, Jade Cargill, and Layla Hirsch. They were next. So the Bunny, she was eliminated. Jade Cargill, she tossed out Layla Hirsch onto all the competitors on the outside. Then the Joker, Ruby Soho, aka the former Ruby Riot. She is now in AEW. I mean, it's so good to see someone that's misutilized and ultimately who is a very good wrestler. Now she's in AEW. She had a solid reaction. So Hater, she was eliminated, followed by Cargill and Ty Conti. So we were down to the final three. Ruby Soho, Thunder Rosa, and Al Rose. So Rose, she was eliminated. Then it came down to Thunder Rosa and Ruby Soho. Could not have asked for a better final two. This is the classic case, and all I could think about this was you have two women who don't look like a prototypical, say, glossy looking women that aren't afraid to get down and dirty and physical for women's wrestling. Wrestling. So Soho, they were fighting on the ring apron, and Soho, she knocked off Rosa with a kick to the back of her head. And Ruby Soho, she wins and she gets an opportunity at Britt Baker for the women's championship. That's going to be a very good match. A very good match. Britt Baker or Ruby Soho. Very good. So then we came to the final fight. Chris Jericho versus MJF. If Chris Jericho loses, he cannot wrestle in AEW again. So MJF, of course, he was targeting Jericho's arm. Well, first, before I get into the match, so we were all hoping that the final countdown was going to be the music for Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, and we all know how Jericho made his debut in WWE. The countdown to Millennium, and he interrupted The Rock. So for MJF's entrance, they had a countdown to countdown on the Titantron. And then Wednesday 0, it was Jericho's final match. Then MJF's music played. Could not have done it better, I would say. Seeing MJF arguing with a few guys in the crowd was hilarious. So, now getting to the match. Jericho, he was played out by one of the band members of Foxy. It was a bit of a letdown, I would say, but so MJF hit a heat seeker on the apron, knocked Jericho to the outside. Jericho then hit a powerbomb to MJF on the apron, which had to have sucked. MJF was favoring his lower back the entire match. MJF, he caught Jericho in midair with a codebreaker for himself for near fall. Jericho hit a lion salt for a 2 count. Then MJF, they were fighting on the top rope. MJF hit a sit-out powerbomb off the top rope, or the middle rope from MJF, but again, favoring the lower back. Then Jericho hit a codebreaker of his own for a near fall. Then Wardlow came out, but he was confronted by Jake Hager, and they were rolling. So then the referee was distracted. MJF, he hit because Floyd the Bat, he was in one of the corners. He hit Jericho in the face with the bat, and then a Judas effect of his own. MJF covered, they were near the ropes for 1, 2, 3, but Chris Jericho's foot was on the rope. So MJF was celebrating, his music was playing, his hand was raised, but Aubrey noticed, and another referee that was at ringside noticed as well. So Justin Roberts made the announcement that the match would restart. So obviously MJF was heated. Jericho, he got a roll up for a near fall. MJF then went for the salty earth, but Jericho fought off it. And then Jericho walked on the walls of Jericho and hits the lower back that MJF has been favoring the entire match. MJF almost got to the ropes, but Jericho pulled him back to the center ring. MJF taps out, and Jericho is victorious finally over MJF. And Jericho's in-ring career lives on. So I kind of have a feeling with the stipulation, well, with how good MJF is, how would they manage to pull it off for Jericho to win? I mean, MJF's still really young. He's only 25. He's still got lots of room to grow and to be groomed as the top guy for AEW. Afterwards, Santana Ortiz and Sammy Guevara, they came out to celebrate with Jericho. The whole inner circle was there in full force. Solid moment. Then after this moment, I was like, "Oh geez, we still got Darby Allin, CM Punk, and Kenny Omega for Christian Cage." So, because it was a very good show to the point. Then we had Darby Allin versus CM Punk. CM Punk's first match in over 7 years. I mean, how would he look? How would he fare? Does he still have something left to take against one of the best in the world in Darby Allin? This was a very good match. Credit to Darby Allin, who is one of the best. CM Punk, he looked a little rusty, but still, he showed that he has plenty left in the tank. So they were pretty much chain wrestling to start. Uh, Great moment though, how CM Punk, he sits down, he crosses his legs, in that crisscross applesauce like position. Darby, he'll sit down in the corner prior to the match beginning. Great moment to start. But so then getting into the match, Darby he rocked CM Punk with a stunner, then a code red for a near fall. Then CM Punk was going for a back suplex off the top rope, but Darby countered into a reverse crossbody. CM Punk actually hit the go to sleep, but Darby he went to the outside, preventing himself from getting pinned. So, but Darby, Punk, he then went for it again, but Darby landed some elbows, rocked Punk. Punk was on the outside, and Darby hit a beautiful top rope senton to the outside on Punk. And then Punk was rolled back in the ring. Darby went for a coffin drop, but CM Punk set up almost Undertaker style. Funny thing, he set up, and then, but Darby hit or landed a crucifix roll up for a near fall. Then Punk went for GTS again, but Darby countered into the Last Supper for a near fall, and then Darby went for his stunner again, but Punk countered and finally landed the GTS again for the win. Punk wins his return as you expect. Solid win over Darby Allin. Afterwards, Sting came out to check on Darby. He and Punk shook hands, and then after Darby got to his feet, Darby and Punk shook hands as well. Great moment. So then we got Paul White versus QT Marshall. I mean, as you expect, it was a squash match for Paul White, aka Big Show. He landed his big chop. He landed a choke slam for the win. I mean, didn't overstay its welcome on the card, but it was a short match. I mean, as you expect, it wasn't bad. It just didn't need to be on the card, but it didn't drag on for too long. That's all I'll say. So then we got to the main event. Kenny Omega versus Chris Cage for the AEW World Championship. This was intriguing in the fact that, people were still expecting Bryan. How is he going to show up? You know, but this was still a solid match despite the chaos and the interference. So Omega had taken to him to start the match, was thrown into the barricade on the outside, then a top row crossbody by Christian. Then Omega actually hit a "You Can't Escape" on the outside with the moonsault coming off the top of the barricade. So, beautiful, good spot. Then they were fighting back in the ring. Christian hit a top rope Hurricanrana. Omega, as he got the advantage, he had two Snapdragons and a V trigger. Then there was a table set up on the outside. They were on the apron. Christian hit a spear to Omega off the apron through the table, then hit a spear in the middle of the ring to Omega's back because, off the table. And then Omega then was hit with a regular spear for a near fall. Then we got some interference by the Good Brothers, but almost backfired. Christian hit a kill switch for a 2 count. Then they were on the top rope exchanging, but Omega countered and hit a avalanche one-winged angel from the top rope for the win. Omega retains in a very good match, but the show is not over. So Omega was cutting a promo, and he said, there aren't many in the world that could beat him. If so, they are probably all retired or they're probably already dead. So then all of a sudden, the lights go out, and then cut to the stage, and Adam Cole's music plays. Adam Cole, baby, is in AEW. And like I said, I almost cried because I got so emotional. Now, the difference between Adam Cole and some of the others that have gone to AEW, such as Malachi Black, Ruby Soho, who I mentioned a little earlier, she was treated wrongly. They could not find something good for her to do. Whereas Adam Cole, he was all throughout NXT. He still had some good storylines, still was used properly. Luckily, he got out while his NXT deal ended. He didn't have to go to the main roster. He didn't have to go to Raw or SmackDown and get buried. But this was unexpected. I mean, I had a feeling Cole, because we didn't know if Adam Cole was going to resign with it, WWE or go somewhere else. I mean, we had a feeling, but we didn't know. Whereas with Bryan Danielson, we knew, along with Punk, that he was going to AEW. We just didn't know when. This was unexpected. And I think that's what made it better. So Adam Cole he came out. He was soaking in. So he got into the ring. The Elite were all in the ring. They were confused because if for those who don't want to be the Elite, Adam Cole before he went to NXT, he was kind of killed off, quote unquote, from being the Elite before going to NXT. So, hence the line, they're already dead, and they were already pushing innuendos on Instagram. So, there's that. So, he got in the ring to a beautiful Adam Cole Bebe chant. So, he was having words with Kenny Omega, and then Jungle Boy, who came out for the save, along with Luchasaurus for Christian Cage. He hit a super kick on Jungle Boy. Then he embraced with the Young Bucks. And then Kenny Omega said, in the good words of Steve Urkel, he said, "Did I do that?" So then he said, excuse me, he said, "Oh, come on. He's one of our best friends." So Al Cole took the microphone and said, "Who's ready for story time with Al Cole, baby?" So he said that the Elite is the best faction in all of pro wrestling and that no one will stop them. So he stood by with Omega, the Elite. Then Omega said, "Now it's time for him to do what he does best, send the crowd home happy." So he said, "Before that, he must bid you adieu." So goodbye. And then before he could say good night, we hear Flight of the Valkyries. At Bryan Danielson's music hit. It wasn't Final Countdown, but it was one of his former WWE theme songs with a twist. It was kind of remixed. And he came out to an uproaring reception. You could tell he was so pumped and happy to be there. He almost cried. You could tell he almost cried on stage. He came down, he was soaking in the moment. He stood off with Christian Cage, Jurassic Express by his side. Omega fled, and they beat down on the Young Bucks and Adam Cole. And Daniel Bryan, Jurassic Express, Christian Cage, they stood in the ring. The Elite retreated up the stage. And the two faces we saw as All Out went off the air, Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, and Adam Cole, just cannot. It was a historic night for pro wrestling. Historic night. Just not much to say other than just a great show, a great pay per view. One of the best I've ever seen. One of the best I've ever seen. Top to bottom. From Miro and Kingston to the main events. I mean, yes, he could have taken out Paul White and QT Marshall, but it was short. Other than that, nothing really to complain about for All Out. So, also to look forward to Dynamite on Wednesday. So we got Malachi Black versus Dustin Rhodes as he continues to take out the Nightmare Family, and Jon Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki. Two great matches for Dynamite. So, but that's the review, guys. Uh, I mean, not much to say again, but thank you for joining me today on the podcast. Uh, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, click that like button as well. If you want to see more, click that subscribe for more pro wrestling reviews. Thank you. Uh, See you tomorrow for sports review topics, as well as my Dynamite review on Thursday, as well as my Rampage review on Saturday. So thank you. Be safe. Peace.